I opened the lab envelope with my hands shaking so badly I'd nearly ripped the paper. It was just to confirm what I already knew, just to get that silly doubt out of my head about ancestry, you know? But when I read 0% paternity probability, my world stopped. My 12-year-old son, Pedro, who shares my laugh, my gestures, who has called me dad since he learned to speak, wasn't biologically mine. And here's the part no one tells you. I had no suspicions, none at all. I took the test out of pure curiosity, one of those silly weekend ideas, and discovered that 15 years of my life were built on a lie my wife had kept all this time. Most people think cheating is about sex, but it's not. Cheating is about sustained lies. It's waking up every day, looking into someone's eyes, watching them play with the child you think is yours, and choosing not to say anything. For 15 years where I was a father, husband, provider, partner, while they knew the truth and chose to leave me in the lie. And you know what the craziest part is? I don't know if I would have preferred to have found out or lived in ignorance until I die, because the truth set me free, but first, it completely destroyed me. In this video, I'll tell you every detail of this hellish journey, from the innocent moment I asked for a DNA test, thinking I'd discover I was 30% European, to the devastating discovery, the confrontation with my wife that blew everything up, to the hardest decision I ever made in my life, a decision that will surprise you because it's not what everyone expects. It's neither the right nor the wrong decision, it's a human, real decision, full of contradictions. Stay until the end, because when you understand what I chose to do, you'll rethink everything you believe about family, fatherhood, and forgiveness. It was all so casual, so innocent, that when I remember it, I want to laugh at the absurdity. I was watching a documentary on Netflix about genetics, those shows where people discover they're 40% Scandinavian, 20% African. I found it fascinating. I turned to Pedro, who was playing a video game, and said, "Son, let's do one of those tests. Find out where we come from." He barely looked up from the screen. "Great, Dad." I went on the website and bought the kit for about 400 reais, thinking it was an educational gift for my son. A gift. The irony. The kit arrived on a Friday afternoon, a cute little white box with 2 saliva tubes and instructions. Carol even laughed when she saw it. "You'll find out you're descended from some European king, Rafa," she joked as she seasoned dinner. I called Pedro, explained the process, and we collected his saliva and mine. He made a disgusted face, "Yuck, spit!" and we laughed together. I sealed the tubes and mailed them on Monday, and life went on completely normal. Soccer on Saturday, barbecue on Sunday, work during the week, that 15-year routine you don't even notice anymore, you just live on autopilot. You know,
It was like those disaster movies where you see the city functioning normally, people going to work, kids at school, everything peaceful. Then the camera shows the meteor approaching from space, but no one down there knows. I was that city, living my ordinary life, taking Pedro to the dentist, arguing with Carol about which show to watch, complaining about the electricity bill, completely oblivious to the meteor heading straight from my head. And the worst part? If someone had warned me, I would have laughed. Impossible. I know my wife. I trust her. Famous last words. Those days of waiting were all too normal. Pedro asked me for help with his math homework. I remember he was having trouble with fractions. We sat at the kitchen table, me explaining, him concentrating. Carol walked by and kissed me on the head. The best dad in the world. I believed it. I believed it was true. I believed that moment, that family, that love were real. And they were. Just built on a foundation of lies I never imagined existed. At work, I had a quiet week. I was working on a new project, excited, having lunch with colleagues, complaining about the boss. Normal. No one looked at me and saw a man about to have his life destroyed because I wasn't. Yet. I was just an ordinary guy with an ordinary life, waiting for an ancestry test result that I thought would be fun. How many times are we seconds away from catastrophe and don't know it? The email arrived 3 weeks later on a Tuesday afternoon. I was at lunch at work, eating a reheated lunch, fiddling with my phone. The title said, "Your ancestry results are ready." I clicked excitedly, expecting to see those colorful world map graphics showing my origins. But there was a different link at the top of the page. Paternity test. I frowned. Paternity test? I hadn't asked for that. I thought it was a system bug, a programming error. I clicked out of pure curiosity, and my life completely changed with that click. The first line was technical, full of words I didn't understand. Genetic markers, analyzed loci, combined probability. I jumped straight to the conclusion, and there it was, in bold, larger font than the rest. Paternity probability, 0.00%. Zero. Not that 99.9% confirming you see in movies. 0 denying. 0 excluding. 0 destroying. I reread it about 10 times thinking I'd read it wrong. Maybe it was 100%. Maybe the computer had reversed it. But no, it was 0.
My body reacted before my mind could process it. My heart raced like it does when you almost crash a car. My hands froze. A cold sweat ran down my back. I had to sit on the floor because my legs simply gave out. I looked around the break room at work, the coffee machine humming, the TV tuned to some random news program. Everything was normal, but for me, the world had ended 30 seconds ago, and no one else knew. I called the lab with my hands shaking so much that I dialed the wrong number 3 times. When they answered, I could barely speak properly. I need to confirm a result. There can be errors, right? The lab makes mistakes sometimes? The attendant was professional but definitive. Sir, when the result is excluding, like yours, we redo it automatically. Double check. 0% means absolute exclusion of biological paternity. I can send the complete technical report. I hung up without answering. I simply pressed the red button and stared at the cell phone screen. And it was then, in that moment, seeing my reflection on the black screen, that I understood. I understood that 15 years were a lie, that my marriage was a lie, that my paternity was... No, wait. Paternity wasn't a lie. Pedro was my son. He just wasn't my DNA. And that difference was going to destroy me for the next few months. I tried to get back to work. I sat at my desk, opened my computer, and stared at the screen for an hour, doing absolutely nothing. My boss passed by. It was okay, Rafa? Yes, just a headache. It was a lie. It was pain from everything. The pain of existing in that moment, in that body, in that reality. At 3 o'clock, I said I wasn't feeling well and left. I drove to an empty mall parking lot and stood there for 3 hours, just breathing, trying to figure out what to do with that information that weighed more heavily than anything I've ever carried in my life. When you discover something like this, your brain does a strange thing. It starts rewinding. Like when you rewatch a movie knowing the twist and see all the clues you missed the first time. Sitting in that break room at work with the results in hand, I started remembering little things. Carol being pregnant, crying so hard when she told me she was expecting. I thought it was emotion, but now I see it was fear, guilt, the desperation of someone carrying a secret. She was nauseous all day, vomiting. I thought it was normal pregnancy, but now I think it was the weight of the lie lifting off her body. The whole pregnancy was strange, but I was young, my first child. I didn't know what was normal. Carol didn't want me to go to appointments. I prefer to go with my mother. I need a woman with me, she said. I found it understandable at the time. Now I understand she was terrified the doctor would mention anything about dates, about when it was conceived, about the biological father's characteristics. She kept me away to control the narrative, and it worked perfectly for 12 years, until the day an innocent ancestry test blew everything up. I remember details now. During her pregnancy, Carol was obsessed with controlling everything. She didn't want a baby shower. It was too stressful, she said. Now I see she didn't want photos of her pregnant self circulating. She didn't want questions. She didn't want attention. She wanted to go through it as discreetly as possible. When Pedro was born, she didn't want to announce it on social media for weeks. Let's just enjoy it first, which I considered a lie. She was afraid of Marcelo finding out. It was like putting a puzzle together inside out, you know? Before, I saw an image of a happy family. Now, taking it apart and putting it back together with the truth, I saw something else, a structural lie. Planned, maintained. I remembered when Pedro was born, me counting his fingers, looking at his eyes, looking for similarities. "He has your nose," the doctor said. A gentle lie doctors tell every parent. But I believed it, wanted to believe it, needed to believe it. And for 12 years, I believed it perfectly, until a white envelope shattered all that belief in one fell swoop.
I didn't confront Carol that day, nor the following week. I was strategic, because if she could lie for 15 years, looking me in the face every single day, I needed to know the complete truth before I blew it all up. I needed to understand the extent, so I became a detective of my own life. I would wake up in the middle of the night when she was fast asleep and take her old cell phone that was kept in a drawer, a 2010 cell phone, those bricks. It still worked and had old messages preserved. I started putting the pieces together. We started dating in January of 2010. In May of that year, Carol asked for some time, said she needed to think about life, about us, those vague excuses. I gave her time. I spent 2 months without contact, respecting her space. In July, she came back, said she was sure she loved me. A month later, we had sex for the first time since time. In September, she announced the pregnancy, made me believe that Pedro was conceived that first time we got back together. But doing the math now, Pedro was born in May of 2011. 9 months before that is August of 2010, during our time. On that old phone, I found gold. Photos of parties with a specific guy, Marcelo, several messages from him on her Facebook page, affectionate comments, photos of them hugging, dates, May and June of 2010, the exact time period. There was even a photo of him holding her by the waist, a huge smile, the caption, highlights, the date, May 15th, 2010, exactly when she asked for time. I felt physically nauseous, ran to the bathroom and vomited, because it was no longer theory, no longer suspicion, it was proof. She left me for him, got pregnant with his child, came back to me and made me believe he was mine. And Marcelo? I looked on social media, married, 2 children, children who look a lot like Pedro. I looked at the photos for hours. Marcelo's oldest had the same face shape as Pedro, the same crooked smile, the same eyes. Like I had never seen, because I never looked, because I trusted, because love is blind and trust is even blinder. I felt like disappearing from the world. I discovered more. Carol had gone on a trip with her friends in June of 2010. That was the time. Photos of the trip showed her and Marcelo on the beach. Not her friends, him. The trip she said she needed to meet was with the guy who was probably the father of my son. Each discovery was a stab in the back. Each photo, each message, each lie accumulated over 15 years, coming to light all at once. 3 weeks investigating alone. 3 weeks carrying the secret like a ton of stone on my shoulders. Every time Carol kissed me in the morning, I felt disgusted. Every time Pedro called me dad, my heart broke a little more. But I kept a straight face because I needed to be prepared for the confrontation. I needed to have all the cards up my sleeve before putting them on the table. During those 3 weeks, I had to act normally, have dinner with the family, watch a movie on the couch, have sex with Carol. Yes, I had to have sex with her while I knew, and it was the most disgusting thing I've ever done in my life. Every touch of hers on my skin felt like it was burning, but I couldn't show it, not yet. I needed a plan. I needed to be prepared legally, emotionally, and financially for what was coming.
I lost 5 kilos in those 3 weeks. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I took sleeping pills and woke up at 3 in the morning in a cold sweat, with my heart racing, with nightmares about Carol and Marcelo laughing at me, about Pedro asking me, "Aren't you my real father?" And I didn't have an answer. Nightmares where everyone knew except me, where I was the clown in the whole story. At work, my performance dropped. My boss called, "Rafa, something's happening. You're different." I almost told him. I almost said,
I discovered my son isn't mine. My wife cheated on me 15 years ago. My life is a lie. But I swallowed it and said, I'll solve personal problems. He nodded and let me go. No one can imagine the dimension of the personal problem you're carrying until you tell him. And I couldn't tell him, not yet. So I went to a lawyer, Dr. Silva, a specialist in family law. I sat in front of him and told him straight away, I discovered that my son is not biologically mine. What do I do? He was direct, without any romanticism. Legally, you are the father. It's on the certificate. You acknowledged paternity, but you can contest it through a paternity denial action. It's a long, painful process that will require an official DNA test and will impact the boy psychologically for the rest of his life. And I don't guarantee that you will be able to escape these obligations. The judge can maintain alimony because you raised him for 12 years. I swallowed hard. There was no easy way out. Either I continued being the father of a child that wasn't mine, or I became the villain who abandoned a 12-year-old boy. There was no middle ground. Dr. Silva continued, and there is the emotional issue. You love this boy, I replied. So the decision will be even more difficult, because legally you can contest it, but emotionally, do you? I left more confused than when I arrived. I prepared documents, printed all the conversations from Carol's old cell phone, took screenshots of Marcelo's photos, made a complete timeline. January of 2010, we started dating. May, she asked for time. May and June, photos of her with Marcelo. July, we got back together. August, she got pregnant. September, announced the pregnancy. May of 2011, Pedro was born. Everything documented, everything proven, everything ready to destroy the woman I loved for 15 years. I tried to prepare myself emotionally for the confrontation. I rehearsed in the mirror. Carol, we need to talk. I did a DNA test. I tried several tones. Angry, sad, cold. None of them seemed right. How do you prepare to destroy your own family? How do you hold a grenade knowing that when you pull the pin, everything will explode? The marriage, the family structure, Pedro's innocence, the relationship with the in-laws, mutual friends, everything. An explosion with no undo button. I chose a Friday night. Pedro was going to sleep over at his friend's house. It would be just me and her. I told him to stay the night, gave him a tighter hug than usual, and he left happily, jumping up and down. He had no idea his world was about to fall apart. I called his friend's father to confirm that Pedro was supposed to spend the whole weekend there. He said it was a family emergency, but that wasn't a lie. When Pedro left, I took a deep breath. Carol was in the kitchen putting away dishes. I called from the sofa. Carol, come here. I need to talk to you. It's serious. The tone of my voice must have given it away because she stopped what she was doing, dried her hands slowly, and came over with a worried look. She sat down far from me, on the other side of the sofa, already on the defensive. I looked her straight in the eyes and said, I did a DNA test with Pedro. Her face turned colorless, white as paper. Her lips trembled. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. She tried to deflect. Why the DNA test? Were you suspicious of me? Her voice was high-pitched, already starting to cry. I took a deep breath to keep from screaming. It was supposed to be ancestry, those origin tests, but the paternity result came back too, and you know what? 0%, Carol. 0. I'm not Pedro's biological father. I spoke each word slowly, haltingly. I saw the exact moment she understood that I knew. Her eyes widened, her mouth opened, her hands went to her face. There must be a mistake, she tried, but her voice was weak and unconvincing. Carol, I know about Marcelo. I know about the period you asked for time. I know everything. I showed her old cell phone in my hand. I went into your old cell phone, saw the messages, saw the photos, did the math. Pedro was conceived during our time, during the time you were with him.
Then she broke down, literally falling to her knees on the floor, sobbing the way you do when you no longer have control of your body. Forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, forgive me, like a mantra. But forgive what? 15 years of active lies? 15 years of letting me raise a child that she knew wasn't mine? How do you forgive someone who woke up every day, saw you play with Pedro, saw you work to support him, and chose not to speak? Through tears, she confessed everything. She had sex with Marcelo during our time, she got pregnant, she didn't know whose child it was, but she bet it was mine. When Pedro was born and clearly didn't look like me, she panicked, but it was too late. She already had a birth certificate, she already had a family, so she buried the secret. For 15 years, I said. For 15 years, you looked me in the face every day and lied? She just cried, unable to answer. Marcelo knows? I asked in a cold voice. He knows he could be Pedro's father? Carol shook her head, her hair stuck to her wet face. I never told him. I cut contact with him completely. He doesn't even know I got pregnant. So it wasn't just with me, it was a universal lie. For Marcelo, for Pedro, for me, no one knew the truth but her, and she carried it alone for 15 years. Part of me felt sorry, but the bigger part felt hate, pure hate. I got up and grabbed the car keys. "Where are you going?" she screamed. "Away from you," I replied. And I drove. I drove for hours, aimlessly, crying, screaming alone in the car, banging on the steering wheel because my whole life was a lie and there was no way to fix it. I spent the whole night driving. I stopped at a gas station at 4 in the morning, bought coffee, sat on the parking lot floor and cried. I cried like I hadn't cried since I was a child, a deep cry coming from a place I didn't even know existed. I came home as the sun was rising. Carol was on the couch, awake, her eyes so swollen she could barely open them. I said straight up, without sitting down, "I'm going to sleep in the guest room. I'm going to look for an apartment on Monday. This is over." She came at me and grabbed my arm. "No, we can go to therapy. I'll do anything. It won't end like this." I let go of her arm forcefully. "You chose to end this 15 years ago when you decided to lie to me. I'm just making it official now." I went up to my room and locked the door. I heard her crying downstairs all night. I didn't come down. But there was Pedro. My son, not her son with Marcelo, but my son of the heart. 12 years raising him, 12 years of homework, taking him to school, teaching him to ride a bike, talking about bullying, playing video games together. How do you erase that? DNA doesn't erase memory, but how do you look at him knowing that every feature of his face belongs to the man who cheated on you with your wife? How do you separate the innocent child from the betrayal of his parents? The lawyer called, decided on the paternity dispute, the cruelest question in life. If he disputes it, Pedro finds out everything. He loses his father legally. He is marked forever. If he doesn't dispute it, I pay child support for a child that isn't mine from a woman who lied to me for 15 years. There is no right answer. "I need more time," I said. "Don't have too much time. The longer you wait, the harder it gets legally." I hung up.
I told my parents. It was one of the most difficult conversations of my life. My mother cried more than me. My father was silent for 10 minutes processing. Then he said, "I'm going to kill her." I had to hold him back from going to Carol's house. "Pedro is still our grandson," my mother said, but her voice was trembling like when you're trying to convince yourself of something that hurts too much. "But not our blood," my father said harshly. "Blood doesn't matter," my mother retorted. And they fought. They fought because of me, because of the situation, because of all the confusion. And I just watched mutely without knowing what to say. Carol told her parents. They called me furious, calling me all kinds of names. "Are you going to abandon your son out of macho pride?" the father-in-law yelled. "He's not my son," I yelled back. "And you knew? How many people knew and pretended along with her?" I hung up, blocked everyone, and Pedro realized something was wrong. Children always notice. "Dad, why do you sleep in the other room?" I gave a lame excuse. He didn't believe it. He saw his mother crying every day. He saw me distant. "Are you going to separate?" he asked in a small voice one night. I couldn't lie. "Yes, son, probably." The desperation in his eyes killed me inside. I rented a small, simple 2-bedroom apartment far from the house where I built my fake family. I moved in on a Saturday. Pedro helped me carry boxes. He was quiet and downcast. At the last box, he asked, "Dad, are you still going to be my dad even though we live far away?" I hugged him so tight that he complained, "It hurts." "I'm sorry, son." But it wasn't because I was hurting his arm. It was because I was hurting everything. Everything he knew his family was falling apart, and he didn't even know why. 2 months in an apartment alone, therapy 3 times a week because I was literally going crazy.
The therapist, Dr. Fernanda, was my salvation. She didn't give easy answers, but asked the right questions. Who is Pedro to you? Take genetics out of the equation. Who is he? I answered automatically, my son. Then you already have your answer, she said. But it wasn't simple because being a father isn't just about love. It's a legal obligation. It's alimony. It's having to see Carol for the rest of your life at school reunions. It's all these things. How do you continue being a father without wanting to kill your child's mother? Dr. Fernanda made me understand. You don't need to forgive Carol to be Pedro's father. They're separate things. Your relationship with him is independent of the relationship with her. It made sense in theory. In practice, it was impossible to separate. I kept in touch with Pedro during that time. I picked him up from school, took him for ice cream, went to his soccer games. He asked, "Dad, when are you coming home?" And each father was a stab in the back because I was still his father, not biologically, but in every way that mattered. A built function, built love, built connection. 12 years can't be erased with a DNA test. But was it enough to not be DNA to cancel everything out? I was watching the Brasileirão game alone on a Saturday when Pedro sent me a message. "Dad, you see? What a great goal by Go Beagle," with a heart emoji. And something clicked. He wasn't the one who lied. He wasn't the one who cheated. He didn't do anything. He's as much of a victim as I am. Maybe more so, because when he finds out the truth, he'll discover that his father left, that his mother lied, that it was all a farce. At least I know the truth. He still lives in illusion. Dr. Fernanda made me do an exercise. Write 2 scenarios. First, you dispute paternity. What will Pedro's life be like in 10 years? Second, you don't dispute. What will your life be like in 10 years? Be honest. I wrote, first scenario, Pedro traumatized without a lost father, perhaps with psychological problems without understanding why he was abandoned. Hating me. Second scenario, me, bitter, paying child support for a child that isn't mine, having to see Carol, having to swallow the lie, but Pedro happy, stable, with a present father. I looked at both scenarios and realized it wasn't about me. Never was.
I made the most controversial and personal decision of my life. I decided I'm going to divorce Carol. This is over with no turning back. Broken trust cannot be repaired. But I'm not going to contest paternity. Pedro is my son. I choose that to be so. Biology is an accident. Paternity is a daily conscious choice. I choose to continue being his father. But there was one last necessary step. Marcelo needs to know the truth. He has a son in the world and he doesn't know it. And if one day Pedro wants to meet his biological father, it's his right. So I did the unthinkable. I contacted Marcelo. Marcelo begged me not to do it. It will destroy his family, I screamed, and she didn't destroy my family, but I did, because the truth needs to be told, even if it hurts, especially when it hurts. I sent a message to Marcelo on Facebook, directly and without beating around the bush. Marcelo, my name is Rafael. I'm married to Carol, or rather, I was. I recently discovered that the son I raised for 12 years is biologically yours. Carol got pregnant during the period you had something in 2010. She never told you. I thought you deserved to know. I'm attaching the results of the DNA test. If you want to talk, I'm available. He responded in 20 minutes, "What, is this real?" I called him. It was the strangest call of my life. 2 men who don't know each other, connected by the son of one who is biologically the son of the other. He was in shock. I didn't know anything. Carol never told me. I know. I discovered everything on my own. Silence. You will tell the boy when he is old enough to process. For now, I am his father. You are the biological father. When he is ready, the choice will be his. Marcelo asked to do an official test. I agreed. We made an appointment at a lab, the 3 of us, him and Pedro. I told Pedro it was a routine health test. He didn't question it. We collected genetic material, sent it for analysis. The result came back in 2 weeks. 99.9% probability of paternity between Marcelo and Pedro. Confirmed. He cried on the phone when I told him. I have a 3rd child and I didn't know. I cried too. And I don't have any biologically. Two men crying for opposite reasons over the same child. Can I meet him? Marcelo asked. When Pedro finds out the truth, and if he wants to meet you, you'll be available. Until then, respect his time. He agreed. You're a better man than I would be in this situation. I don't know if I'm better. I just know that he doesn't deserve to pay for his parents' mistakes. We agreed to keep in touch, but discreetly, until the day Pedro found out. Today, 6 months after that discovery via email, my life is completely different. I'm divorced and live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment. Pedro stays with me every other week. He still doesn't know the truth about his biological paternity. His therapist, who is also a child psychologist, advised waiting for him to turn 16 when he has the emotional maturity to process this without deep trauma. I agreed. For now, I'm a father, period. And I can say with absolute certainty that I'm a better father today than I was before the discovery, because now I actively choose to be his father every day. It's not a DNA obligation, it's a decision of love. I contacted Marcelo. It was surreal. I explained the whole situation by text, coldly, without beating around the bush. He responded in shock. I didn't know anything Carol never told me. He asked for an official DNA test. We did it. Result, 99.9% probability of paternity between Marcelo and Pedro. Confirmed. He cried on the phone when I told him. I have a 3rd child and I didn't know. I cried too. And I don't have any biologically. 2 men crying for opposite reasons over the same child. Can I meet him? Marcelo asked. When Pedro finds out the truth, and if he wants to meet you, you'll be available. Until then, respect his time. He agreed. You're a better man than I would be in this situation. I don't know if I'm better. I just know that he doesn't deserve to pay for his parents' mistakes. We agreed to keep in touch, but discreetly, until the day Pedro found out. I learned something that no one teaches. Fatherhood is not about blood, it's about presence. It's about waking up at 3 in the morning when you have a fever. It's about going to every school meeting, even dead tired. It's about teaching someone to ride a bike, holding on until you're sure they won't fall. It's about listening to teenagers complain about flirting at school and pretending it's serious. It's about daily love, daily choice, daily construction. DNA is chemistry. Family is decision. And I decided that Pedro is my son, not because he was born, but because I built him with me. Every memory, every laugh, every cry, that's real fatherhood. About forgiving Carol? No, I haven't forgiven her, and maybe I never will completely. What she did isn't easily forgiven. She destroyed 15 years of trust with a lie she actively chose to maintain every single day for over a decade.
That's not forgiven by swallowing it and going back to normal. But I learned to let go of the anger. Not for her, for myself. Because carrying anger is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. I'm rebuilding my life away from her, but close to Pedro because he's innocent in all of this and deserves to have a father present, even if that father doesn't share his DNA. Today, when I pick up Pedro from school, he runs and hugs me, "Dad." It still hurts a little, but it hurts less because I understood that fatherhood is not about the moment of conception. It's about 12 years later. It's about being present. And I was, and I will continue to be. Carol tries to talk to me sometimes. We can be friends for Pedro. No, we can't. I don't want to be friends with someone who lied to me for 15 years. But we can be civilized for the sake of our son, and that's what we are. Pedro sometimes asks, "Why you separated?" Adults are complicated, son. It's not a lie, but it's not the complete truth either. One day he will know. The day he knows, I hope he understands why I waited, why I protected him from the truth for so long, because the truth hurts, and children shouldn't carry the weight of their parents' mistakes. So I ask you, if you had access to a DNA test today, would you do it? Even with the risk of discovering something that would destroy your life as you know it? Or there are secrets that are better never to know. And if you already suspect something in your family or in your relationship, have the courage to investigate until the end. Because the truth sets you free,
But first, it shatters everything, leaves you on the ground. Then only after a long time can you rebuild from the broken pieces. But it is never the same again. Leave a comment. Would you do the test? Contest paternity? Or do as I did and choose to be a father regardless of DNA? And here's the most controversial question of all. Do you think DNA testing should be mandatory at every birth? Or do you think there are lies that sustain families and it's better not to mess with them? Because on the one hand, everyone deserves to know the truth. And on the other, how many happy families would be destroyed by old truths? There's no easy answer, but I want to hear what you think. Comment below and let's debate respectfully. Statistics say that between 1% and 3% of all parents are raising children who are not biologically theirs without knowing it. This seems like a small number, but there are millions of men around the world, millions of families built on secrets. And the burning question is whether it is better to know or not to know, because knowledge has a price. The price is peace, the price is innocence, the price is being able to go back. There are people who will say, "You're a fool, you should have abandoned them both." I understand the anger, but these people don't understand what it's like to look into the eyes of a 12-year-old child who loves you unconditionally and destroy that love because of a test. Others will say, "You're a hero for staying." I'm not either. I'm not a hero, I'm just a man making the choice that he can live. And that choice has a daily emotional cost. Every time I see Pedro, with characteristics that I know come from Marcelo, it hurts. The crooked smile, the way he frowns when he's thinking, the voice getting deeper as he grows older, these are constant reminders that he's not my blood. But then he does something, tells a joke the way I taught him, uses an expression that only I use, demonstrates values that I spent years teaching, and I realize he's mine, just in a different way, in a way that matters more. I learned that family is a fluid concept. It's not DNA, it's not a birth certificate, it's a daily choice to be present. It's a construction. My parents understood this eventually. My mother said in a conversation, "I spent months trying to see differences in Pedro, trying to see another person in him. But I only see my grandson, the boy I helped raise. DNA doesn't change that." My father took longer, but one day watching Pedro play soccer, he said, "He has his determination. It doesn't matter where he came from, he is your son because you made him your son." I learned that forgiveness is complex. There are people who think that you either forgive completely or hate completely. It's not like that. I live in a gray area with Carol. I don't forgive her for what she did. Maybe I never will. But I don't hate her anymore because hate consumes. And I need that energy to be Pedro's father. So I transformed hate into indifference. She is the mother of my son. That's all. She is not a friend. She is not an enemy. She is just the co-mother of the child I chose to raise.
I learned that children know more than we imagine. Pedro asked the other day out of the blue, "Dad, you still love me?" "More than anything in the world, son. Why?" "Why do you sometimes look at me with a sad face?" I froze. Does he suspect that it's not sadness? "Son, it's love. A love so great that it even scares me sometimes." He seemed to accept it, but he made me realize I need to control it better. I need to smile more. I need to leave my pain aside when I'm with him, because he doesn't deserve to carry my weight. I learned that therapy saves lives. Literally. I had suicidal thoughts in the first few months. I thought it wasn't worth continuing, that my life had been a lie and there was no point in continuing. Dr. Fernanda made me see that your life wasn't a lie. The moments with Pedro were real. The love was real. Fatherhood was real. The only lie was about genetics, and genetics is the least important part of being a father. Those sessions saved me. If you are going through something similar, please seek help. You don't go through it alone.
You don't need to go through it alone. I learned that men don't have space to talk about this. When I tried to share it with friends, the reaction was, "Dude, leave this woman and this kid and rebuild your life." As if it were simple, as if 12 years could be erased, as if I could look in the mirror and respect myself, knowing that I abandoned a child because of a test. Society expects men to be tough, rational, without emotion, but I'm human, and humans feel, and it hurts. It hurts a lot. Pedro will be 13 next month. I'm planning a party. He wants to invite his friends over to play video games and eat pizza. Simple and perfect. Carol will be there. Marcelo won't. At least not yet. Maybe never. It depends on Pedro when he finds out. If he wants to meet his biological father, I'll support him. If he doesn't, I'll support him too, because it's his choice. It always has been. I'm afraid of the day he finds out. I have nightmares about it. Him looking at me with hate. "You're not my real father. Why did you stay out of pity?" And having to explain, "I stayed because I love you. I stayed because fatherhood is a choice. I stayed because you are my son with or without DNA." Will he understand? At 16? At 18? At 25? I don't know. I just know that when the time comes, I will be there. I will be present, as I always have been. Marcelo sends messages from time to time. How he is, growing up, getting good grades, playing well on the team. Thank you for taking care of him. It's not a favor, it's love. Our conversations are strange. Two men connected by a child, by a lie, by a situation neither of them chose. He lost 12 years of his son. I discovered that 12 years of my life were built on a lie. There is no clear villain in this story, besides Carol, and even she is a villain, or just a woman who made a huge mistake and didn't have the courage to fix it. I don't have answers. I only have questions, and a 12-year-old son who needs a father. So I wake up every day and choose to be that father, not out of legal obligation, not because of DNA, but because love is a verb. It is action. It is a difficult, conscious, daily choice. And I choose him every day, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. If you are reading this and discovered something similar, first, breathe. I know it seems like the world has ended. It seems like nothing makes sense. It seems like you were the biggest idiot in the world. You weren't. You trusted. And trust is not weakness, it is strength. The person who betrayed you is the weak one. Second, seek professional help. A lawyer to understand your rights. A therapist so you don't go crazy. Don't try to solve this alone. I tried and almost didn't survive. Third, think about the child. I know it hurts. I know it's unfair. But the child didn't choose any of this. They are the biggest victim. Any decision you make puts them first. It's not about you. It's not about your ex. It's about an innocent child. Fourth, there is no right decision. There is the decision that you can live with. If you can continue being a great father, if you can't, don't blame yourself. Everyone has their limits. I chose to stay because I was able to separate Pedro from Carol's betrayal. But I understand those who can't. I don't judge. It's not easy. It will never be easy. Fifth, truth has power, but also has consequences. Think carefully before blowing everything up. Think about who will get hurt. Think if it's worth it. Sometimes it's worth it. Sometimes it's not. There is no formula. Each case is different. But think a lot before acting.
If you are a woman reading this and hiding a similar secret, tell me. For the love of God, tell me. The longer you wait, the worse it gets. With each passing day, you sink deeper into the lie, and when it explodes, because it will explode eventually, the destruction will be proportional to the time you lied. A year of lying is recoverable. 15 years destroys everything forever. Think about the man who is raising this child, thinking it is his. He deserves the truth. Think about the child who one day will find out and will question his entire existence. He deserves the truth. Think about the biological father who may not even know he has a child. He deserves the truth. And think about you. Carrying this secret is destroying you inside. Even if you don't admit it, it is slowly eating you away. Yes, it will hurt. Yes, it may end the relationship. Yes, it may have legal consequences, but it is the right thing to do, and deep down you know that. That's why you're reading this far. That's why this video impacted you, because you recognize the situation. So do the right thing. Tell us, now, before it's too late, before 15 years pass and the bomb explode in a way that there's no way to fix it. My story doesn't have a happy ending. It doesn't have a perfect resolution. It has a broken family, a boy who doesn't know the truth about his origins, a father who chose to stay despite everything, a mother carrying guilt, and a biological father waiting in the shadows. It has pain, confusion, complicated love. It has difficult choices with no right answer. But there is something beautiful too. There is a man who chose to be a father, not because he had to be, but because he wanted to. There is a child being loved unconditionally. There is forgiveness happening little by little, not in the traditional way, but in the way possible. There is reconstruction. There is hope. There is a future, even if uncertain. If you know someone who is having paternity doubts, or who has discovered an old affair, or who is thinking about taking a DNA test, share this video. It can help them understand that they are not alone, that the pain is real, that confusion is normal, that there is no perfect decision. There is only the decision you can live with. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell for more real stories that no one wants to happen, but happen every day. Stories about family, betrayal, forgiveness, impossible choices. In the next video, I will tell the story of a woman who discovered at 45 that she was switched at birth, grew up her whole life with the wrong family, her biological family was 3 blocks away, how she dealt with it, how she rebuilt her identity after discovering that even her name was not hers. You will not want to miss it. Until the next video, and remember, family is not who made you, it's who chooses to stay. Genetics is an accident, love is a decision, and a decision has more power than any DNA. See you later. I'm recording this a year after the original video. Pedro is 13 now. He's grown 10 centimeters, his voice is changing, he's becoming a man, and he's still my son. He still calls me dad, he still sleeps here every other week, he still doesn't know the truth, but he will know soon. He turned 13. Carol and his therapist decided that at 14 will count. A year and a half to prepare. A year and a half for him to mature a little more. Carol is finally in therapy too. She admitted that she needs help, that the guilt was killing her. She asked to talk to me last month, not as an ex-couple, as parents. I accepted. We went for coffee. She said, "Thank you for not abandoning him." I replied, "No, thank you. I did it for him, not for you." She nodded. "I know, but still, thank you. You're a better person than I deserve." Marcelo met Pedro, not as his father, but as a father's friend. We arranged a casual meeting at a football game. Marcelo was there by chance. They talked about football. Pedro didn't suspect anything, but Marcelo messaged me later. "He's incredible. Thank you for raising him so well." I cried reading it because it wasn't anger. It was recognition. 2 men, the same child, respecting each other. My love life is non-existent. I tried to go out with someone. The first question is, do you have children? I have a 13-year-old boy. He lives with you half the time, which is great, but then it gets complicated when someone eventually asks, does he look like you? I'm left without an answer because lying is starting another relationship with a lie, and I've had enough lies to last me a lifetime. So I told the truth to the last woman I went out with. He's biologically my ex's son with another guy, but I chose to raise him as my own. She literally ran away, got up, and left. I laughed alone in the restaurant because it's so absurd that all I can do is laugh. But it's okay. I'm not ready for another relationship anyway. I'm still processing 15 years of lies. I'm still rebuilding, I'm still learning to trust again, and until then, I have Pedro, I have my parents, I have therapy, I have football on Sundays, I have a life. It's not the life I planned, but it's the life I have, and I'm learning to accept it. Last thing, I received hundreds of messages after the first video. Men going through the same thing, women confessing secrets, children who found out and don't know how to deal with it. This subject is more common than we imagine, and nobody talks about it. So thank you for watching, thank you for sharing, thank you for making this conversation possible. Together we normalize talking about real family, not the perfect Instagram family, the real, messy, complicated human family. And remember, you are not alone. Whatever your story, there is someone going through the same thing. There is someone who understands. There is a community. There is support. There is hope. There is always hope, even when it seems like there isn't, there is. I am proof of that. Until the next video, and may everyone find peace with their stories, in any way possible, in the time possible, but may they find it, because everyone deserves peace. See you later.